Hi, I'm Nicole Cushing, and you are listening to Legends of Tabletop.
Yes, this is episode 170, and we are going ever nearer to the coveted episode 200. And I never thought we'd make it this far. And thank you so much for joining us today, Nicole. Can you tell us why you're here today?
Well, I'm here to talk about my new release from WordHorde called A Sick Gray Laugh. It's my new novel, and I'm very excited about it.
Well, I'm very excited to talk with you about it too. As I was going through part of it, it began to read somewhat like a book that I had read previously called Occult America. I don't know if you have read that one as well.
I haven't, but it's always good to know that other people are on the same page and I'm not just a complete alien kind of from some spore, you know.
See, the funny thing is it begins to read almost like a document of items occurring throughout history of the occult history of our country and what is woven into the fabric of our being and the places that we come from and what that means for us. If you are a history buff, I would definitely recommend this book to you. It's excellent. It reads somewhat, yeah. I mean, it reads somewhat like a dissertation, but the bits where you go into the vignettes, I've only made it to about page 110.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go ahead and confess that now.
That's okay.
Yeah, but
no worries.
But I do greatly appreciate it, and the parts where it's like, oh, I don't want to go into it because I don't want to give it away, but the parts where something has been absconded with, and then there's a vision around the part where I told you where I had cut off, where there's a vision of opulence and.
Yes. Yes.
And yeah, I think that was hilarious. Like, oh, they absconded with it.
Right.
Really?
Right. Yeah, there are various narrators throughout the book who are of various degrees of trustworthiness, and it's up to the reader to kind of suss out which ones are perhaps legitimate or not, but there are hints definitely provided along the way. And there are shady characters, and there are people who are true believers, and then there are people who are exploiting the true believers. And just to give a little bit of context for the listeners, what we're really talking about is the settlement of the Midwest in the 19th century and some of the utopian societies that came out here. I'm located in Indiana. And some of the utopian societies that came out here that were so odd in many cases and brought beliefs that, kind of commingled Orthodox Christianity with alchemy and Gnosticism and all this kind of thing. And so the puzzle that I reached was this, kind of curious question of how did the Midwest get from this real proving ground of unusual ideas to the reputation it has now as being very stodgy and being very conservative. And I wanted to interrogate that. And that's part of what the novel's about.
And you did a fantastic job here. Let's see. Yep. And I'm just going over little notes, and I've already addressed the like the Occult America, which again, it's a history of our strangeness that has come to our shores. Let's see. And yes, please tell me about. We're gonna take another direction really quickly.
Sure.
Tell me about your Patreon classes, if you could. That would be fantastic for those of us that are unaware and that's very exciting.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I started doing Patreon a few months ago, so it's just been the last few months that I've been doing this. But I'm interested in. I've taught horror writing classes or writing classes in general for several years now, and I've done them mostly at conventions like StokerCon, or I was a guest at a literary festival in Virginia where I taught classes to college students. And I was interested in taking this idea of online learning and taking it to Patreon. So what I'm doing on Patreon is helping people learn how to write good horror stories by taking a very hands-on approach. So the idea is that I'm very practical. I kind of think of this as a class almost in like literary mechanics. I imagine that we're all in a shop and we're all kind of have grease stains on ourselves. And we are taking a look at a really good horror story. We are treating it like a car in the sense that we're popping open the hood. We're taking a look at the engine inside, the engine that makes the story run. And, you know, we're taking apart the engine to show all the different parts of how they interact with each other, what makes the engine of the story go and what makes it run efficiently. And to me, that's like one of the best ways to learn writing is to see like a writer who does it really well and to study it and to study the nuances and to find out what are the essential threads that run through a horror story that might not run through conventional literary story or a fantasy story or a science fiction story, really focusing on what makes horror and how to do it well. And so there are 25-minute video lessons posted, one each month. And there are also PDF attachments that are available for students to look at. So some of them are writing prompts. Some of them are, just explanations of ideas and examples of ideas. And so there's actual tangible things that people can take. And that's for folks who give at the $15 a month level. And then there's also some other fun things on the Patreon. A few years ago, I had something I called the Nicole Cushing Postcard Club, where I was at that point I was giving out like free weird postcards. You know, I was like sending them through the mail.
Oh no!
To read.
Oh, we've been having some technical issues with Nicole's Wi-Fi, so we may experience some intermittent delays once in a while. I just hope that Nicole gets this little hiccup worked through and we can continue where we left off with the weird postcard club. As far as I know, from what I can hear, her Wi-Fi has broken. However, we might be talking.
I'm excited about it because Patreon is a way for creators to connect directly with readers. And especially if you're doing work outside of the box, doing work that's kind of not your typical sort of novel, something a little bit strange. This is a good mechanism for readers to support that work directly.
That is awesome. And I'm going to go ahead and admit, unfortunately, your Wi-Fi hiccuped. Oh, your Wi-Fi hiccuped and it's doing so again. Right when you started talking about this strange postcard club. And I caught the very end of where Patreon allowed for us to work with people who thought outside of the box, and that's
right. Yeah, I looks like my internet connection kind of went out, which the signal is being jammed perhaps by malicious forces. Who knows? That's a joke. That's a joke. I'm not really that paranoid, honest. I'm really not that paranoid. But no. So I was talking about Patreon and how it's really great because it, creators and audiences connect directly. And so if you're outside the box, it's a good way for people to show their love for things that aren't mainstream.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, tell me about the experience of winning the Bram Stoker Award.
Oh, well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I have my sticker here, by the way. Yeah, here it is, and it's cool. It's like a little creepy haunted house, and you open the door, and it has your name, and I don't know if that's visible, but yeah, name, the book, and everything. So, so yeah, it's a cool experience, and I had been nominated for awards before, so I knew not to get my hope.
No, Nicole. Ross, I promise we'll talk more about a sick great laugh when she gets back. Oh, Nicole. Oh, this is so sad. I'll figure something that we can to pass the time. Now, hopefully John can edit these strange moments out so we have.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can.
Okay. So yeah, I was. So I've. What I was saying is basically that the I've been nominated for awards before, and so I knew not to get my hopes up because my novella "Children of No One" had been nominated for a Shirley Jackson Award, I think in like 2014, and so I knew, you know, I was nominated but I hadn't won, and so I go into it basically with the sense of, you know, if this happens, great, but I'm not going to count.
Nicole.
Yep.
Here you are again. If this happens, great.
Yeah.
Oh.
Am I here?
You're here now. Okay. So you cut off right after. If this happens, great. Then.
Yeah, if it happens, great. If it doesn't, you know, fine. And basically it happened, and it was ecstatic and wonderful. And it probably the best part is it helped give my work a lot more attention than it would have without the win or without the nomination. Even the nomination gave me a lot of attention, and I was able to share that moment with my husband, who is there, and I was able to virtually share that moment with my editor, Ross Lockhart, who I quickly messaged on Facebook Messenger, and because that had been a really great partnership. And then I also had a chance to you know, get congratulated by Jack Ketchum, a horror author who I had admired, who unfortunately has passed away now. So when I think about that night, I'll think about how Jack Ketchum came over to congratulate me, and how much that meant to me. And I had mentioned him in my acceptance speech, and that meant a lot to him. And you know, I just wish we still had Jack here, but we don't. But I had that wonderful memory of that night at the Stokers.
That's fantastic. Now, what city is that held in?
Well, it rotates around.
Okay.
Yeah, like the year that I won the Stoker, it was in Las Vegas. And since then, it has been in Long Beach. It has been in most recently in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I'm sure there is another location that I might be forgetting. But yeah, that's basically where, you know, and I think next year it's going to be in the UK.
Okay, so it's kind of like WorldCon and that.
Yeah, it's definitely it travels around, and then I think the year after that is going to be in Denver. So they're already working out where it's going to be. But so yeah, it was a pretty cool experience, and it definitely took the notice of my work to another level, and I'm very grateful for that.
Oh, absolutely. Now, what book is this? A Sick Gray Laugh. How many books have you had published by WordHorde?
Oh, well, this is the second book from WordHorde. It's also my second novel. I've had other books, basically novellas, a short story collection as well. and I enjoy the novellas, but I really feel a strong dedication to the novel form now. And so A Sick Great Laugh took a little bit of time to write because historical fiction always takes time to research. And I wanted to really get it right. I wasn't, after my book, Mister Suicide, won the Stoker, I didn't just want to, repeat the same kind of story with the same kind of characters. I really felt an obligation to both myself and my readers to grow as a writer and to find new influences and to grow in new directions. And I think that's what I've done with this book. So it took a little bit of time, but I think readers will find the wait worth it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Let's see. What did I do? You know what? I'm going to be painfully honest with you, Nicole. It has been such a busy couple of months for me that I did not prepare very well for this at all. So I apologize. How long have you been writing horror, specifically horror? No. And the Wi-Fi cuts out. No. Nicole. Are you still here? Oh.
I lost it for a second.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
No, I was
you were
just
saying how long, and then I lost.
How long have you been writing horror?
I've been writing. Well, I've pretty much always written horror. And I've been writing for about, I guess this will be about 11 years now that I've been writing. It's been a long journey. I didn't, for many of those years, I spent just kind of finding my voice and getting my skill level up and
getting your skill level up. Aw. It's okay. We've all had Wi-Fi issues in the past. So it is okay. And we will edit this in post.
and now we're back.
Yes, and that's okay. I was just explaining we've all had Wi-Fi issues in the past.
Yeah.
And we can always edit this out in post. So you've been writing horror for the past 11 years or so, mainly finding your voice. Okay. Now, how long was it since you made the decision of, I'm going to be a published writer? How long did it take for you from making that decision to crossing that line?
Oh, gosh. Well, I really became serious about writing in 2008. I had played around with it before. I had, after college in 1996, I had tried to write, and I really didn't get much done. I got some very well-earned rejection letters from short story markets that were around at the time. Yeah. And I kind of took my ball and went home, so to speak. And then I tried it again around the turn of the millennium, like 2000, 2001, 2002. And I even sold a couple of stories, but I really was more involved in partying with writers instead of actually writing. I did not have the work ethic at that time, nor did I have the ability to take advice from more established writers. I was not teachable. So it really wasn't until 2008 when I went to a writing class and started going to a couple of them, writing classes that were held at conventions. And when that happened, I for the first time, I began to be willing to take advice. And so I just did a lot of writing where, of course, I wanted to write for publication, but I really wanted to get good at it first. And so there are, probably dozens, if not hundreds of stories that have gone on the cutting room floor and will never see the light of the day because they're just kind of failed experiments. They're little misbegotten sort of mutant things that hop around when they're supposed to fly or that kind of thing. And yeah, so it just, there's a long learning curve to really know how to do this well. It's not enough, in my opinion, just to be able to turn a phrase. It's not enough just to be able to have a attraction to words. It's really learning how to refine the use of that and just in the same way someone learning music would have to learn how to write music. I think it's that complicated.
In a sense, I'm going to say that it to me, it's even more complicated than that. It would be easy for someone that's been in this at that level to say, yeah, it's more complicated than that. And then it's, of course, as I'm coming to the picture, it's like this insurmountable cliff, kind of. So yeah, no, I get that. Wow. Now, how many rejections would you say that you had gotten before that tide began to turn?
Oh gosh. Hundreds, literally hundreds. I mean, there were, and some of the stories, a lot of the time I was rejecting myself in the sense that I would produce something that I knew wasn't good enough, that was nowhere near good enough. And so it just kind of was one of these, like I said, little misbegotten mutant children that that just.
Oh. Misbegotten mutant children. I've birthed, no, I mean, I've written a few of those. Oh, Nicole. One of these days, maybe I should spit out a misbegotten. Ah, you're back. We left off at misbegotten mutant children.
So yeah, but a lot of the stories that I sent out were rejected. Some of them were rejected many times. And for example, there's a story of mine called The Orchard of Hanging Trees, which is a story that a lot of people like, but it was rejected originally 13 times before Pseudopod finally picked it up as a story that they wanted to produce as an audio version. And so, yeah, you just never know. Sometimes persistence does pay off.
I'm guessing that's what the sentence was. I'm guessing that sometimes persistence does pay off.
Yeah, persistence does pay off.
Okay, because unfortunately I had to finish that sentence. And that's how I finished it. And I won't do that. I will refrain from completing your sentences in the future when this happens again. So,
which it will, probably in a matter of seconds.
Yes. But oh my goodness. Tell us again what your works are and where they can be found.
Well, the one you can find them. Well, you can order right from WordHorde. That's actually a really good way to go because WordHorde has this deal where if you order the book from them, they'll you get a signed book plate in there. So, and of course, it's good for the publisher. So if you head on over to WordHorde.com, that's WordHorde.com. They have where you can pre-order the book already there. And that's a good way to go and support the small press. Obviously, my books are also available at online booksellers, like the one that rhymes with Glamazon. And And there's actually I live on the border of Indiana and Kentucky. And so the closest indie bookstore to me is Carmichael's Books in Louisville, Kentucky. And they have many of my books in stock where you can order them online. If you go to Carmichael's Bookstore, I believe it's carmichaelsbookstore.com, or if you Google Carmichael's Bookstore, they have signed copies in stock that you can order, and you can order online from them. And that's another great way to support indie things, indie booksellers, supporting indie publishers. And I try to be very supportive of Carmichael's because I think it's important that we have booksellers who are really invested in book culture, which is what you find at Carmichael's.
Absolutely. Definitely support small businesses, of course. And that's CARMICHEALS books.
Yeah, CARMICHAEL. Yeah,
Okay.
AEL apostrophe S books. Yeah. And so, they like people have ordered my books from all around, like people from all across the country have ordered books from them, and it's good for the bookstore and it's good for me. And it's just kind of a win-win.
Excellent. Excellent. I will add that link to the description of this video below.
Yeah.
So yes. So please go to that site. And if you do, then you just might get a signed Nicole Cushing book.
Yep.
And that's very kind of you to sign their stock.
Well, I like I said, I go there all the time too. I shop there because they have really great books, and they have stuff that I wouldn't find other places. So for me, it's not I just can often I'm by there anyway. But yeah, it helps, and it's a really cool thing. Like I said, a win-win for both of us.
Absolutely. Now, how long would you say that the process took between start to completion to just putting that final rubber stamp, the end, on A Sick Great Laugh?
Oh gosh, it took a long while. A Sick Great Laugh started in its infancy in late 2014, I want to say. And I had a story in mind, and I wrote about 45,000 words, and it wasn't working out. And I then went back and eviscerated it and started writing a new story. And then the old story kind of developed into its own thing. I have a book coming out later in the fall called The Half Freaks. And The Half Freaks was originally supposed to be part of A Sick Gray Laugh, but it kind of developed its own entity. They're kind of like fraternal twins. And that one's coming out from Grimscribe Press. And so, so it kind of diverged in its own direction, kind of developed its own integrity, its own orbit. And so
you're saying it's more of a fraternal twin to TNM?
It's more of a fraternal twin to A Sick Gray Laugh.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking of a character in that book, but no. Okay.
No. So it's there was a lot of kind of juggling around the stories and finding which one was the right one. And then once I found out which one was the right one, I would sometimes get interrupted because a short story deadline would be coming up. And so I spent time doing that, or I had another book that had a crowdfunding campaign attached to it, and that took my attention.
Oh.
And so it was really not until, like last year that I was able to give it the full amount of attention I wanted to, and I knew where I was going with it. And the form sort of developed over time. And also the other thing is, about partway through the writing process, I discovered a great book called The Art of the Novel by the literary novelist Milan Kundera. And I fell in love with that, and that really taught me a lot about novel writing. And I wanted to apply those lessons to A Sick Gray Laugh. And so that changed my whole approach to the novel, I think much for the better. And so the thing is, I always want to be learning. I always want to be growing as a novelist. And that means getting new influences. Like Kundera has been one of my influences in the last couple of years, and applying his storytelling style to my subject matter, which is, things like madness and foulness and squalor and all these kinds of things. And so, yeah, I mean, it was a real evolution, and I'm very pleased with the final product. But it was definitely a learning experience. And I think also, anytime you're a writer working on your second novel, especially if the first novel has received any kind of acclaim or has garnered any kind of success, it's a bit difficult, just because, you're always looking over your shoulder and you're wondering, you wonder, like, okay, what are people expecting of me now? And it can get in your head a little bit. And it took some time for that to get out of my head and for me to just kind of feel confident doing something new.
That's awesome. So The Art of the Novel by Milan Kundera.
Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure.
Highly recommended.
Okay. Oh, wow. That I'm definitely going to have to check that out when we are complete. Oh, God. Let's see. So that took about 4 years. Mm-hmm. From conception to completion for A Sick Great Laugh. Now, it's obvious where a lot of your source material is pulled from. Mm-hmm. Your environment, and how specifically can you place the specifics on your inspirations for your source?
Well, taking as an example the whole idea of utopian societies in the Midwest, there was a settlement about 2 hours west of me, in southwestern Indiana, called New Harmony, and New Harmony was this strange society of folks. They were supposed to be celibate. They had very strict rules governing their behavior, but they were this society that had this unusual mingling of alchemy and Christianity and some unusual ideas about what happened at the creation of Adam and Eve. And they also had they built a labyrinth in their settlement. So and you can go right now, if you can go to New Harmony and visit, and they have this replica of the labyrinth that's not in its original location, but it's like a hedgerow sort of labyrinth that you can walk through. And in the middle, there's a little hut where you can go to meditate. Oh, wow. And of course, I found that to be really, 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 fascinating and strange and alluring. And there's all kinds of locations like that throughout the Midwest and other places too. And so I read a great book. Actually, I have it right here, called Utopian Communities in America. And this was one of my big sources for reading about all kinds of very strange societies that grew up in the Midwest. And oh, wow. Yeah. So like there was this one woman in New England who called herself the public universal friend.
Yes.
She would demand things from her followers, mm-hmm. and she would give the excuse that she needed to get these material things from her followers, these donations, by saying the friend hath need of these things. It's just like so so much gumption there involved in all that, and so
extrism, just
totally. But a lot of these folks were also true believers. And so, you have all the elements of great drama in there, if you think about it, because you have the tension between the true believers and the con artists. and you have the tension between the group as a whole and the society that surrounds them, and you have the tension between religious belief and profit motive. Yeah, and also the effort to survive in a new place where they don't know anyone, especially in A Sick Gray Laugh. The settlement is in a place that no other group. I mean, Indiana became a state in I believe 1816, and this settlement is happening later in the century, and in like the 1840s or 50s, I believe. And the reason why that's the case is that no one else wanted the land that this utopian society in the book is going to occupy. It's in a place where it has no geographical advantages. The Native Americans didn't settle there. The other previous settlers from Europe didn't settle there because it's just kind of not a good place to settle. And so you have this completely impractical sort of thing, and you have the absurdity that opens up with some of their rationalizations about what they're doing, why they're doing, and it seems like that absurdity is a good way of understanding our present day situation too, which is in current events sort of a whirlwind of absurdity in and of itself.
Yeah. So the first planks of kindling are laid in the mid 19th century.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep, indeed.
Huh?
I said, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, oh wow. I did type out the name of that one book that I did reference earlier, because again, like you had said with Indiana, the same thing happened in Kansas City. We've got the United Universalist Church, the RLDS split. So, oh no! Did the Wi-Fi quit? No. Aw. Nicole. Are you there? Hello?
Hey, I lost you for a little bit. We had been going on for too long without the interruption.
I know. It's like, okay, this is going to happen sometime soon. But is there anything else that you would like to highlight today?
Well, mostly I just want to say hi to all those folks out there in Google land and
No. We're going to persist. This is going to. Persist.
Hello?
Yes. You cut off right at hi to all the folks in Google land. You cut off at hi to all the folks in Google land.
Oh, yeah. Well, what I really want to share is that a lot of passion and a lot of care went into this book, and a lot of writing and rewriting and rewriting and rewriting. So I think that effort will show forth, and I'm looking forward to you all being able to get it when it's released on August the 27th.
Yes.
And available for pre-order now through WordHorde.
Woo!
Yeah.
Absolutely. WordHorde is awesome. Thank you.
They are. They are. Actually, here I maintain in my office a little piece of WordHorde themed armor.
WordHorde weaponry. Yes.
That's right. Because the WordHorde logo is this group of medieval silhouettes. I don't know if you can see that there.
Oh,
so
yes.
I have my own battle axe. I asked the publisher of WordHorde, Ross Lockhart, if I could be the one that has the battle axe, and he said I could. So officially in the WordHorde logo, I'm the one with the battle axe. But yeah. So just I take no shit, and
exactly.
Yeah. My other people in Indiana are crazy about guns, but I have a weapon of my own. Here we go. All right.
Excellent. Now, Oh gosh. I mean, it's just simply because of the Wi-Fi issues.
Yeah, totally. We need to wrap
That's
up.
yeah,
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
but that's the only thing. And thank you so much for your time, Nicole.
Oh, not a problem. I'm sorry that the Wi-Fi issues are happening.
It's
That
fine.
just, yeah, I have this thing on here that says I have a weak signal, and I don't know why that is. But of course, it would be today that I have the weak signal. But anyway, thanks so much, Leah. I really appreciate it.
Yes, and thank you all for tuning in. Have a wonderful afternoon.